Greetings ladies and gentlefish, and welcome to another World of Tanks video. This time we are taking a look at some of the the two tier 8 Swedish tank destroyers. Kicking off proceedings with Wolfsea here in his Udes 03. Udes? This is gonna be more, how can I put it? This is a match that's not here for the vast damage count or anything like that. This match is here primarily for the amusement factor, I'm not going to lie. And I hope Wolf doesn't mind me saying that. Because, like, it's not as if he's going to get 5,000 damage or something. That's not what this replay is about. Having said that, he is initially going to go to your kind of traditional campy spots. Now, for anyone who's not... Ooh, get shot at already. For anyone who's not aware what these higher tier Swedish tank destroyers are all about, they're all about this siege mode feature. So, the idea is that these machines historically had variable suspension. The height of the suspension could be changed, a bit like anyone who used to own one of those really old Citroen cars. And you could change the height of the suspension at the back. So that's how these tanks kind of get all their gun depression and whatnot. And the gun is pretty much fixed. You move the tank. So in World of Tanks, these things are given what's known as siege mode. The idea is that if you are driving around normally, your gun is... I want to say god awful. Let's say god awful. Bit of a problem. But your mobility is pretty good. Alternatively, if you go into siege mode, your gun becomes hilarious at the expense of a lot of mobility, and it takes a second or two to switch between modes. That can make these TDs a little campy, not gonna lie, but it's an interesting idea nonetheless. So this is the regular tier 8. Oh, and Wolf gets spotted there. So this thing gets no armor, basically. The thing you have to bear in mind with the armour on these higher tier Swedish TDs is that it's very, very, very thin, but sloped back at a very, very, very extreme angle. What this means in practice is that they tend to bounce shells because of the ludicrous angle. For anyone who isn't aware, regular AP shells will bounce on a plate that is angled back at 70 degrees or more, regardless of the penetration value. So, yeah, this tank doesn't have particularly thick armour. It's very thin, which means that you can the armour on this tank can be overmatched by pretty much anything. The S1, and we're going to see that in the second game, has a little more armour, and what that means is that lower caliber guns can't overmatch the armour on that tank. So whilst higher caliber guns can still give you problems, goodbye Mr. T43, lower caliber guns not so much. But this is the Udes. It is really rather flimsy. The flip side is that the Udes gets a, if memory serves, a better reload on what is essentially the same gun compared to the Stridsvagn S1, which we're going to be seeing after this match. Anyway, so far Wolfsea has managed to do 1,300 damage and pick up 2 kills. Nothing to be ashamed of, none too shabby. But, you know, it's a tier 8 TD. That's nothing to particularly write home about, and that's not what this replay is about. But we're getting there, trust me. So, the other thing that's nice about these TDs, actually, is that they have pretty tasty reverse speeds, which is nice. And very high penetration on their gun. So this is a tier 8, remember. 390 alpha damage, it's a 105mm gun. That alpha damage does not increase as you go up to tier 9 and 10, but 288 base penetration on a tier 8. That's higher than the, well, that's higher than the penetration on the ISU 152 used to be before it was nerfed. If you fire any premium rounds for some reason, that pen goes up to 330. So what you find with these guns is the premium penetration isn't actually all that impressive, but the regular penetration is hilarious. I believe the tier 10 gets over 300mm of regular penetration, which is quite a lot. So, Wolf here, he does like his tank destroyers, I am aware of that, but he's not one of these people who just finds his backside glued to one spot. He does actually engage his engine and move, as any sensible tanker should. So he's come over here to try and support his allies against the OI, but also because he's noticed that the 1 and 2 lines have kind of not gone very well. So he doesn't want to get spotted and wrecked by the enemy team. Trying to get shots there on that Tiger, but it just isn't happening, and the OI is behind a hill thing. Not quite sure what that shot was for. Maybe accidental. There didn't seem to be anything there for Wolf to shoot at. But there's the enemy ARL-44. Not on very high health though, probably not worth Wolf's time. The Tiger should be able to polish the guy off. Or Wolf's platooned Udez. Oh, Charioteer. Oh dear. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. So, the friendly team are losing by 1 kill at this point. Hello, Mr. Charioteer. Bang. Now, the camo rating on these TDs is actually very, very good, as you might notice there. And while they're in siege mode, you can move yourself around without resetting. You don't count as moving, basically, so that's without resetting your binos or camo there. And straight off the bat, there's Riddick, who has rammed the ARL-44 to death, which is quite amusing. Speaking of ramming, you know I said there was a reason for this replay. Well, anyway, more on that later. So, Wolf has had quite enough of this camping lark. He's relocating. Again, I mentioned he's not an idiot. Going somewhere else, doing something else, trying to find a different position from which to shoot people. I mean, no good you being in a TD if you're not going to shoot anyone. And if you're in the wrong position, you can't shoot anyone, therefore you are useless. So, there is that. Now, unfortunately, both the OI and the enemy Slitzvang S1 are kind of behind a mountain there. And then we've got the AMX-13 F3 and the Charioteer over to our left-hand side. So the positioning is a little awkward. And as it turns out, the Wolf here, I believe, was hoping that the OI or the S1 would move backwards. As it is, they don't. Riddick is in a little bit of trouble, and the friendly Tiger just died. So, and oh, hello, artillery ramming speed, Mr. Johnson. Oh, totally worth it. Now, interestingly, I say interestingly, Wolf doesn't use his repair kit there. And I can't really say I blame him. I mean, the AMX had already fired. There's no mad rush to use it. Auto-aim, miss. Oh dear. Well, you know what we can do about that? There we go. The thing is, of course, that these tanks destroyers are really lightweight. It takes quite a lot of effort to ram someone to death. But, well, Wolf's done it. So that's both of these platoon mates have a ram kill, which does entertain me endlessly. Still the S1, the OI, and the Charioteer to deal with. There's the OI. Wolf whacks himself into siege mode. I think he's expecting the Charioteer to crop up from behind them. But Wolf decides, nuts to this, he's clearly not there. The OI is, let's go somewhere else and make some use of this gun. OI, 150mm of frontal armour. Udez, 288mm of penetration. I think that OI's numbers are dayed. Days are numbered. I can know English, apparently. There's the Udez. There's the Slitzvang S1. This could be awkward, although 105mm gun on Wolf's Udez should be able to go straight through the front of that S1. And Wolf's Udez here has the better rate of fire, so he would win that shootout even without the help of his platoon mate there. Unfortunately, the Charioteer claims Riddick, which is a bit of a shame. Charioteer has 160 hit points remaining. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. What are we going to do about this guy? And then he kills the M44. Ah, that's a problem. And there we go to finish off the match. So I mainly included that video because it just showed a couple of Udez ramming people to death, which I think is hilarious. In such a light and lightly armoured tank destroyer, that's not the sort of thing you expect. Nonetheless, 9 kills between them, they were able to carry their team to victory there, so all credit to them. I guess it's time to go and look at the stats and see how well they did then. So that was enough for Second Class Mastery Fighter and Fire for Effect there from Wolf. Finished at the top of his team with 2,591 damage done, 5 kills, 904 base experience. I say top of his team, well, technically second, I guess. His platoon mate Riddick really was top on XP, 962 of it, 2.8k damage and 4 kills. Both of them managing to pick up a ram kill there, which I do think is always very impressive. Commiserations to the enemy charioteer there. 4,272 damage is a nice result for a tier 8 tank, but not quite enough to enable his team to win. 12 shots fired, 8 hits, 8 penetrations for that damage count. 1,000 of it was actually from closer range, which is not the sort of thing you expect from an Udez, but then neither is a ram, so go figure. 8 enemy vehicles damaged, 5 destroyed, 84 assistance damage, and with a premium account that was a 17,500 credit profit. So there we go. Nice couple of matches. A nice match there in the Udez. So second replay of this video, we're going to have a look at the Stridsvagn S1, the Udez's premium counterpart. Okay then, so this is the Big Bison. He is, as I mentioned, going to be driving Stridsvagn S1, Swedish Tier 8 Premium Tank Destroyer. Now, my apologies, this replay is a little buggy. Firstly, some of the messages you will see appear in duplicate, and also the replay lags a little bit in places, which is a little annoying, but I wanted to show this game anyway. Well, I have noticed, by the way, that it seems Big Bison is blue. Maybe that's a replay bug. Maybe he has actually done a little bit of team damage. Whatever. I'm not going to focus on that for the purposes of this game. This match should, by the way, kind of come with a public health warning. You'll see what I mean later on. But for now, let's just run with it. So, completely Tier 8 match. Completely. So, none of this Tier 7, Tier 6, Tier 9 or Tier 10 malarkey. Everyone is a Tier 8. Bison immediately takes up a position on one of these hills. It's a pretty obvious tank destroyer position, but then the Stridsvagn is a very sneaky machine. So, yeah, go figure. He's already racked up 1,200 regular damage, 1,070 assistance damage, not something you see every day in a TD, but he did manage to track that T-34, who then subsequently got deleted, so there is that. So the game has gotten off to a pretty decent start. He has been very largely instrumental, shall we say, in executing that T-34, and put a bit of damage into some other peeps as well, so all things considered, that ain't too shabby. T-44 here, and that's probably going to get him spotted. Indeed it does. These things are stealthy, but stealthy and stealthy. Shot there goes into his tracks. One thing that's worth noting about the siege mode on these Swedish tank destroyers, if your tracks get messed up, you can't turn your hull anymore, and if you can't turn your hull anymore, then, that was a lucky bounce, then you can't really do a great deal of much at all. I say a lucky bounce, it appeared as a bounce, but didn't come up in the damage counter as a bounce. Go figure. Whatever. Anyway, like I said, this replay is a bit buggy. So, getting tracked in one of these things is actually really, really, really bad. Speaking of these things, there's the enemy Stridsvagn. Oh, that's a shame. It was an opportunity to really nail that shot there, but no, never mind. The guy's still going to sit there though, so let's take this shot blind, and there's kill number 1 as the Stridsvagn goes up to the spirit in the sky. In the sky. Light tank is really going for it there. This is problematic, but at least Bison's able to put one shot into him before he completely closes in on the friendly team and on Bison's position here. Somehow manages to miss that pilot. This gun is actually pretty good, and there you can see the armour on this tank coming through. That was a shot from a 90mm gun. 30mm of frontal armour, sloped back at a very steep angle, mean that any gun with a calibre of 90mm or under is just going to auto-bounce on him, unless they are aiming up at that commander's cupola. So this thing can actually get the odd bounce here or there, and here you can see the reverse speed coming into play. That shot goes into Bison's tracks. On the one hand, you could argue it's a little bit lucky, on the other hand, it was a 90mm shell anyway, it was probably going to bounce, and it forced Bison to burn his repair kit, so kind of not optimal there. Bison is relocating, he's up to 1,228 assistance damage, 2.4k regular damage, so even if the match were to end right now, he's already had a good impact. The scoreline is 4-4, but you can immediately see the problem. The enemy team are all over the friendly base. Again, don't know how that shot missed. I have noticed that Bison seems to come out of sniper mode just as he fires or just after firing gun. Now I know some people have commented about that on me. Me doing that what I actually do is pull the trigger, come out of sniper mode straight away, but I find that the game just seems to be a little, in general, almost laggy, but anyway, let's not worry too much about it. Scoreline is now 4-7 as the friendly team have started wilting. Goodbye, Mr. WZ, that's quite enough of your shenanigans, thank you very much. And with this siege mode, these Swedish tank destroyers can actually get some very impressive gun depression going on, which is nice, but very necessary given the type of tanks that they are. So, reversing over this ledge here, and oh dear, that's an enemy WZ-111. He can overmatch Bison's frontal armor if he actually pulls the trigger, which for some inexplicable reason he isn't doing. Let's run with it. Guy's dead. Third kill. 3,500 damage done at this point. Ferdinand over there in the distance. No artillery this match, which is probably working in Bison's favour, by the by. But, yeah, Ferdinand over there. A 2-shot for Bison's gun here. If someone else puts a shot into him, then that would bring the guy into 1-shot range. Same 105mm gun that you find on the UDES, so you're still looking at 390 alpha, 288 penetration, and 330 pen with APCR. Well, with premium APCR, because this thing gets APCR as standard. HE rounds, they're okay, but they're nothing too special for a 105mm gun. And given the ranges you're probably going to be engaging people at in this tank, nothing too special. Sorry about that. Friendly team of 2 tanks down, although that Ferdinand does go down to the defender, so that evens the scoreline up a little bit, which is nice. And now there's a glut of heavy tanks to shoot at. So, starting with the 110, that really surprised that shot missed. Then again, these guys are almost 500 meters away, so perhaps I shouldn't be too surprised that some of these shots are going to miss. Going for the turret. Why would you shoot the turret? Well, because you have 288mm of penetration. With that sort of penetration at tier 8, there isn't much you can't aim for. Puts a shot there nicely into the 110. So we've got the 110 and the AMX M449 Liberté over there. Almost 4,000 damage done at this point. Both those heavy tanks. Super Pershing was last spotted to the right hand side. Lerva over to the left, and unfortunately Lego Tank, who was one of Bison's platoon mates there, has succumbed to an enemy Lerva. Mr. Lerva man. Sorry. Shot there into the 110. That guy, I mean, the angle wasn't too bad on the side of his hull there, but 288mm of penetration says hello. And we've also got the Liberté over there. Side of a Super Pershing, 444, nice damage roll from this gun. 390 alpha, as I mentioned earlier on. Bison does get spotted, unfortunately. Tries to go for the turret on that T25 pilot, but no joy. His friendly team is still 2 kills down. Bison is up to 4.7k damage. So, is that guy really going to do that? Well, big fat shots into the big fat side of that Liberté. Let's not complain too much. If this were an UDES, the reload would be better, but then again, if this were an UDES, he wouldn't have blocked 720 damage with his armor. So, once again, the shell misses. I must confess, given the supposed accuracy on this gun, which is supposed to be very, very impressive, I know these are long-range shots, but quite a lot of the target seems to be in Bison's aiming reticule most of the time. Then again, maybe the hill was blocking part of the hull. I don't know. Nonetheless, over 5k damage done now to the enemy team. Scoreline is still 8-11 though. At this point, if you'd done 5,000 damage in a tier 8 tank, you'd have expected to win the match. But, as it is, Bison's team just lost another one. There goes the T25 pilot. Enemy pilot is a 1-shot, that's something, thank heavens for small mercies. Liberté would be a 1-shot if Bison got a high roll, so probably a 2-shot. The Liberté is going to go for it again, 400 into the side of his turret, points out that maybe that wasn't such a hot plan, and leaves him on 23 hit points. Lerva, away in the distance, come on, and of course the shot misses. But again, please remember that guy is like half a kilometre away. He's just on the very edges of Bison's render range. So it perhaps shouldn't be too surprising that the shot missed, even when the gun does have very good accuracy stats in siege mode. There goes the Liberté, and that just leaves Bison and this defender. Hello, Mr. 110. Goodbye, Mr. 110. You become kill number 4, but there's only 2 of the friendlies left versus a whole bunch of enemy bad guys. Lerva. Defender takes out Lerva. 5 tanks left on the enemy team. The defender, unfortunately, is only on 246 health. So, for a number of guys on the enemy team, he is a one-shot. Bison's trying to get away there, but there's a Jagdpanther 2 that is giving him problems, and the enemy Liberté pops up again. So, Bison really wants to try and keep this defender alive as much as is possible because, well, 2 versus 5 is better than 1 versus 5. Go figure. Oh, come on, Mr. Super Pershing. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Do something stupid like drive out in the open. Oh, Liberté takes out the defender, and Bison now finds himself 1 versus 5, but he immediately makes that 1 versus 4 as he executes the Liberté. So, 5.888k damage done, 1,228 assistance damage, 5 kills. Bison finds himself alone. For a moment it was 1 versus 5, but now it is 1 versus 4. He is having a pretty tasty game. And much like Wolf, he's not one of those TD players to just sit there all the time in one place waiting for the enemy to surround him. He is engaging his GTFO gear. Once again, the reverse speed on this tank is pretty tasty. And, well, I mean, he's doing 42 kilometers an hour in reverse. Oh, that timing is terrible, though. Gets spotted out by the enemy M4, and the M4 is able to overmatch his frontal plate. So, shot there into the M4 to execute him, puts him on a top gun, takes a hit, though, from the Super Pershing, and now Bison only has 110 health to play with. He cannot take another shot. His frontal armor will fairly reliably bounce both the pilot and the Super Pershing, but that VK is going to be a problem. Hello, Mr. Super Pershing. Bison moves back, so he's hopefully not going to get spotted when he pulls the trigger. That's enough. He can just put shots straight through the hull of this guy. Oh, 474. The guy's going to take 2 more shots. He's actually switched to premium APCR here for 330 pen. Not that it really makes all that much difference. And to be honest, he would be running out of regular armor piercing at some point anyway, as he only have 5 rounds of it left. 1 more shot to take out the Super Pershing would be lovely. Can he make this 1 versus 2? 6.8k damage done now. 1 versus 2. Come on. Right, moving in. If he can pop himself over the ridgeline, he might be able to execute that Super Pershing. Bison really needs to kill these guys 1 at a time here, as otherwise this could be quite messy. Messier than it already is, put it that way. Super Pershing might be firing premium ammunition, but it really doesn't make a jot of difference. Hello, Mr. Super Pershing. Goodbye, Mr. Super Pershing. You are dead. Bison, just in chat, is talking about food. Go figure. So that just leaves the pilot and the VK remaining. Neither of them are AFK. I mean, we saw the pilot earlier on, and that VK is currently sitting on 3 kills. He went round the long way, but when he turns up, he might be a bit of a problem with a gun that can just blat Bison out of the park. Don't know how much health he's on though. And now we play the waiting game. Here's the problem. Bison has the mobility to relocate, but, well, I mean, he could be caught on the hop is the problem while he is relocating. T-25 pilot gets spotted and ducks down into the low ground. Not a bad plan. And the fact that this tank is so low profile means that Bison can use this sort of ridgeline walkway thing, embankment, to hide most of his tanks, which is nice. So there is that. Bison is relocating at this point. It'd be really nice if he could take out that pilot. Will he have enough time to even win this match though? Even assuming he kills the pilot, we don't know where the VK is. The VK could either try and bore this game out for a draw for some obscure reason, or he could come after Bison, and even then Bison may not have a DPM to kill the guy. So this is going to be tight. This is close. 1 minute 20 left on the clock. Bison is coming up to see if he can take out that pilot. Hopefully the VK isn't going to be able to put a shot into him as he does so, because he's not using the bush here, so there's a good chance he's going to be spotted even before he pulls the trigger. Like that. I reckon that pilot is probably in the bush. Bison pulls back, 59 seconds left on this match. And this is really, really awkward. Bison moving up, trying to use a bush this time to see if he can spot anything. But with only 45 seconds left on the match, I'm pretty sure this thing is not going to be a win unless that VK is on very, very low health. As even if Bison shoots everything that turns up, it's probably only going to be a draw. There is the pilot. Pilot flubs. Bison takes the shot, kills the pilot, but the enemy VK puts a round into him. And this is what I was worried about. Enemy VK. Yeah, go figure. And unfortunately, Bison loses that match right at the last moment. Bit of a heartbreak there. Let's go and see how much of a heartbreak that was. There we go then, that match was enough for Bison's first mark of excellence in the Stridsvagn S1. Ace Tanker, Bruiser, Fighter, Fire for Effect, sorry that's Duelist, Fire for Effect, High Caliber, Top Gun and the Radley Walters there for 8 kills. 6,972 damage done at tier 8, and that was a loss. Ouch. 1,146 base XP, but please remember that is without the Heroic Resistance bonus thrown in. Heroic Resistance, for those who don't know, basically gives you the XP as if you had been on the winning team, if you get at least one medal or not, and Bison got an assortment of medals there. So when you total it all up, 33 shots fired, 24 hits, 23 penetrations. For that damage count, most of it was from fairly long range. 9 hits received, 5 penned, 5 did not. 720 damage blocked by his armour, 11 vehicles damaged, 8 destroyed, 1,228 assistance damage, 2.87 kilometers travelled. 116,134 credits received with the standard account. Remember, the Stridsvagn S1 is a tier 8 premium tank. Even with the premium APCR rounds that Bison decided to fire there, that was still a 47,000 credit profit on a defeat with a standard account. With a premium account, that would have been 109,000 credits. Throw in his Heroic Resistance bonus, and his actual base XP count was 2,028, which might be the highest I've ever shown on this channel. I am not quite sure. Very well done to Bison there. Massive shame he couldn't quite pull the win out of the bag, but he really gave it a good go. And tried to do everything he could. He survived right up until 14 minutes and 29 seconds. But here's the thing, even had he not been killed by that VK, it's very unlikely the VK would have driven across the map to let Bison shoot him. Even if Bison had been able to shoot him, there's a good chance he wouldn't have had the DPM to actually kill him before the match ended. So at that point, unfortunately, it looked like the friendly team was never going to win. The best they were probably going to get was a draw. Such a shame. But there we go. If we have a look at the friendly team, we can probably see why. Bison did almost 7,000 damage. The friendly AMX did 2,000. There's a few with over 1,000 damage done, but just across the board, the team just didn't do enough. On the enemy team, conversely, we have 3 tanks, each with more than 2,000 damage done. That enemy VK that won them the match, in the end, well, he only did 1,297 damage, but got 4 kills. Called Ebenezer Scrooge. How appropriate that Ebenezer Scrooge should snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. Too stingy to allow you to win. What can you say? Anyway, I hope you will be able to get over that heartbreaker there. And I also hope you enjoyed that pair of games in Swedish Tier 8 tank destroyers. If you did, then by all means feel free to catch some of my other videos and or subscribe to my channel. And as ever, I wish you very happy hunting on that battlefield. Ciao ciao.